The Great Wall of China is a series of fortifications that were built across the historical northern borders of ancient Chinese states and Imperial China as protection against various nomadic groups from the Eurasian Steppe. Several walls were built from as early as the 7th century BC, with selective stretches later joined together by Qin Shi Huang, 220 to 206 BC, the first emperor of China. Little of the Qin wall remains. Later on, many successive dynasties have built and maintained multiple stretches of border walls. The most well-known sections of the wall were built by the Ming dynasty, 1368–1644. Apart from defense, other purposes of the Great Wall have included border controls, allowing the imposition of duties on goods transported along the Silk Road, regulation or encouragement of trade, and the control of immigration and emigration. Furthermore, the defensive characteristics of the Great Wall were enhanced by the construction of watchtowers, troop barracks, garrison stations, signaling capabilities through the means of smoke or fire, and the fact that the path of the Great Wall also served as a transportation corridor. The frontier walls built by different dynasties have multiple courses. Collectively, they stretch from Liaodong in the east to Lop Lake in the west, from the present-day Sino-Russian border in the north to Tao River, Toei, in the south, along an arc that roughly delineates the edge of the Mongolian steppe, spanning over 20,000 kilometers, 12,000 miles, in total. The collection of fortifications known as the Great Wall of China has historically had a number of different names in both Chinese and English. In Chinese histories, the term, Long Walls T.S. Chángchéng, appears in Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, where it referred both to the separate great walls built between and north of the warring states and to the more unified construction of the first emperor. The Chinese character, meaning city or fortress, is a phonosemantic compound of the earth, radical and phonetic, whose Old Chinese pronunciation has been reconstructed as *d. It originally referred to the rampart which surrounded traditional Chinese cities and was used by extension for these walls around their respective states. Today, however, it is much more often the Chinese word for city. The longer Chinese name, 10,000-mile-long wall T.S. Wànlǐ Chángchéng, came from Sima Qian's description of it in the records, though he did not name the walls as such. The AD 493 Book of Song quotes the frontier general Tan Daoji referring to the Long Wall of 10,000 miles, closer to the modern name, but the name rarely features in pre-modern times otherwise. The traditional Chinese mile, li, was an often irregular distance that was intended to show the length of a standard village and varied with terrain but was usually standardized at distances around a third of an English mile, 540 meters. Since China's metrication in 1930, it has been exactly equivalent to 500 meters or 1,600 feet, which would make the wall's name describe a distance of 5,000 kilometers, 3,100 miles. However, this use of 10,000 is figurative in a similar manner to the Greek and English myriad and simply means innumerable or immeasurable. Because of the wall's association with the first emperor's supposed tyranny, the Chinese dynasties after Qin usually avoided referring to their own additions to the wall by the name, Long Wall. Instead, various terms were used in medieval records, including frontiers, Sai, ramparts, Yuan, barriers, Zhang, the outer fortresses, Weibao, and the border walls T.S. Bianqiang. Poetic and informal names for the wall included the Purple Frontier, Zisai, and the Earth Dragon, T.S. Tulong. Only during the Qing period did Long Wall become the catch-all term to refer to the many border walls regardless of their location or dynastic origin. A quiver. Foreign accounts. None of the Europeans who visited China or Mongolia in the 13th and 14th centuries, such as Giovanni da Pian del Carpine, William of Rubruck, Marco Polo, Odoric of Pordenone and Giovanni de Marinoli, mentioned the Great Wall. The North African traveler Ibn Battuta, who also visited China during the Yuan dynasty c. 1346, had heard about China's Great Wall, possibly before he had arrived in China. He wrote that the wall is 60 days' travel from Zietun, modern Quanzhou, in his travelogue gift to those who contemplate the wonders of cities and the marvels of traveling. He associated it with the legend of the wall mentioned in the Quran, which Dhul Qarnayn, commonly associated with Alexander the Great, was said to have erected to protect people near the land of the rising sun from the savages of Gog and Magog. However, Ibn Battuta could find no one who had either seen it or knew of anyone who had seen it, suggesting that although there were remnants of the wall at that time, they were not significant. Soon after Europeans reached Ming China by ship in the early 16th century, accounts of the Great Wall started to circulate in Europe, even though no European was to see it for another century. Possibly one of the earliest European descriptions of the wall and of its significance for the defense of the country against the Tartars, i.e. Mongols, may be the one contained in João de Barros's 1563 Asia. Other early accounts in Western sources include those of Gaspar da Cruz, Bento de Goes, Mateo Ricci, and Bishop Juan González de Mendoza, the latter in 1585 describing it as a superbious and mighty work of architecture, though he had not seen it. In 1559, in his work, A Treatise of China and the Adjoining Regions, Gaspar da Cruz offers an early discussion of the Great Wall. Perhaps the first recorded instance of a European actually entering China via the Great Wall came in 1605, when the Portuguese Jesuit brother Bento de Goes reached the northwestern Jiayu Pass from India. Early European accounts were mostly modest and empirical, closely mirroring contemporary Chinese understanding of the wall, although later they slid into hyperbole, including the erroneous but ubiquitous claim that the Ming walls were the same ones that were built by the first emperor in the 3rd century BC. When China opened its borders to foreign merchants and visitors after its defeat in the First and Second Opium Wars, the Great Wall became a main attraction for tourists. The travelogues of the later 19th century further enhanced the reputation and the mythology of the Great Wall. Course. A formal definition of what constitutes a Great Wall has not been agreed upon, making the full course of the Great Wall difficult to describe in its entirety. The defensive lines contain multiple stretches of ramparts, trenches and ditches, as well as individual fortresses. In 2012, based on existing research and the results of a comprehensive mapping survey, the National Cultural Heritage Administration of China concluded that the remaining Great Wall-associated sites include 10,051 wall sections, 1,764 ramparts or trenches, 29,510 individual buildings, and 2,211 fortifications or passes, with the walls and trenches spanning a total length of 21,196 kilometers, 13,171 miles. Incorporating advanced technologies, the study has concluded that the Ming Great Wall measure 8,850 kilometers, 5,500 miles. This consists of 6,259 kilometers, 3,889 miles, of wall sections, 359 kilometers, 223 miles, of trenches and 2,232 kilometers, 1,387 miles, of natural defensive barriers such as hills and rivers. In addition, Qin, Han and earlier Great Wall sites are 3,080 kilometers, 1,914 miles, long in total. Qin Dynasty, 1115–1234, border fortifications are 4,010 kilometers, 2,492 miles, in length. The remainder date back to Northern Wei, Northern Qi, Sui, Tang, the 5 dynasties, Song, Liao and Xixia. About half of the sites are located in Inner Mongolia, 31%, and Hubei, 19%. Han Great Wall. Han fortifications starts from Yumi.